At first glance, the 1986 Kennedy half-dollar looks like just another ordinary coin, quietly resting in someone's hand, unnoticed and often underestimated. Yet behind its worn surface lies a powerful story shaped by loss, memory, and a nation's attempt to preserve history in metal, of America's emotional past, created during a time when the half-dollar was slowly fading from everyday life but refusing to disappear completely. By 1986, the world was rapidly changing, yet this coin carried forward a legacy born from one of the most tragic moments in modern American history. The Kennedy half-dollar was first introduced in 1964, only months after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The speed at which this coin was designed and released was unprecedented, driven by a public demand to honor a fallen leader. More than 2 decades later, the 1986 issue continued that tribute, even though the coin was no longer widely used in daily transactions. Its continued production symbolized remembrance rather than necessity, proving that some objects exist not because they are needed, but because they matter. By the mid-1980s, inflation and rising metal costs had already stripped the half-dollar of its silver content, replacing it with a copper-nickel composition. Despite this change, the emotional weight of the coin remained untouched. In 1986, these half-dollars were struck mainly for collectors and limited circulation, quietly slipping into drawers, collections, and forgotten bankrolls. Each one carried the same portrait: Kennedy facing left, calm and composed, capturing a moment frozen in time. The reverse design, featuring the presidential seal with the eagle, shield, and stars, reinforced the coin's symbolic role. It stood as a reminder of unity, strength, and endurance, values that resonated deeply during the Cold War era. While people moved on to smaller denominations and digital payments slowly began to emerge, this coin held its ground as a physical memory of leadership and national identity. What makes the 1986 Kennedy half-dollar especially fascinating is not its immediate value, but its quiet survival. It exists at the crossroads of history and modernity, too young to be ancient, yet too meaningful to be ignored. Many of these coins were never spent, not because they were valuable at the time, but because people instinctively sensed that they represented something more than 50 cents. Today, holding a 1986 Kennedy half-dollar feels like holding a story rather than a coin. It speaks softly of remembrance, transition, and the way nations choose to honor their past. Before collectors began searching for errors, grades, and market value, this coin already held worth measured not in dollars, but in memory. Beyond money, this coin carries emotional weight. It connects modern collectors to a pivotal moment in American history. Each coin represents continuity, proof that memory can be preserved through everyday objects. As time moved forward, the 1986 Kennedy half-dollar quietly transformed from a forgotten piece of change into an object of curiosity for collectors who understood that history often hides in plain sight. While millions of these coins were minted, not all of them survived in equal condition, and this is where the real story begins. Most examples entered circulation and suffered from scratches, dull surfaces, and wear, but a smaller number were carefully saved, sealed away in mint sets or untouched bankrolls. These preserved pieces would later become the foundation of serious collector interest, proving that condition can turn an ordinary coin into something far more desirable. One of the most important aspects of the 1986 Kennedy half-dollar is the difference between circulated coins and mint state examples. Coins struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints were intended for general use, yet surprisingly few remain in high-grade condition today. Finding one with strong luster, sharp details, and no visible marks is far more difficult than most people expect. This scarcity in top grades has quietly pushed demand upward, especially among collectors aiming to complete perfect Kennedy half-dollar sets. Even more intriguing are the subtle, minting errors that occasionally appear on 1986 issues. Weak strikes, off-center designs, doubled lettering, and planchette flaws have all been discovered over time. These errors were not noticed by the public when the coins were released, but decades later, they have become highly sought after. To a trained eye, a small imperfection can completely change a coin's story, turning it from a simple half-dollar into a rare conversation piece worth far more than its face value. Machines, cash registers, and public habits had already moved on. This made the half-dollar feel symbolic, almost ceremonial, and collectors today are drawn to that sense of lost tradition. Value for the 1986 Kennedy half-dollar varies widely. A worn circulated example may still be worth only face value, but uncirculated coins in high grades can command significantly higher prices, especially when certified by professional grading services. Proof versions, struck with mirror-like finish for collectors, are even more desirable and continue to rise steadily in value. These price differences remind us that rarity is not always about age, it is about survival, preservation, and timing. And this is where the story of this coin becomes even more mysterious. What looks like an ordinary piece of metal may actually carry hidden value, untold history, and unanswered questions that collectors around the world are still searching for. If this coin exists in your pocket or collection, you might be holding more than money. You might be holding history itself. In the next video, we will reveal deeper rare variations and shocking details that most people never notice. So don't miss the next part, because the real secret of this coin is still waiting to be uncovered.